The supernova of 1006 AD. Which inspired Speaking in Tongues. Voynich Manuscript. By Thomas O'Neill. April 17, 2026. Over the years, and it has been 17 now since I first saw and discussed the Voynich Manuscript, I have had my theories. At times, I thought it was gibberish, and others a code for an actual language that was everyday speech. MS-408. The document name for the Voynich manuscript does have its structure of prefixes and suffixes, yet it retains a low entropy for a language. That means it is unusual that more often words repeat themselves than a normal language. Many attempts have been made to gain meaning over the time it has been published since 1005-1006. What happened in April 30, 1006 was a rather large illuminated supernova. It is my theory about the Voynich manuscript, ignoring the carbon dating. I believe this inspired this document of Speaking in Tongues. Carbon dating is not a bulletproof science. I don't trust the carbon dating of the Voynich manuscript. It is possible maybe it is a historical document, but my feeling is the document is too personal and was written at the time. What I have here are all the posts from the site Voynich Ninja about my theory. They are different and concise with information, leads, and secrets of the author of the Voynich manuscript. If you are interested in the world's most mysterious document, while you read this, you can see it and interact while you are reading along. https://www.jasondavies.com/voynich. Here is the post on Voynich Ninja. https://www.voynich.ninja/thread5562.html. My theory: where the rules are loose and wild, these types of words would appear only in a constructed language for a glossolalia. So just looking at these words brings up a glossolalia. What is interesting is the number 8 corresponds to N, meaning that the frequency hit is the same for the glyph the number 8, D in EVA and N in Latin. So simply substituting Latin for EVA, then you can pronounce the word that was a glossolalia dictionary term. Latin used October for 8. I think the 8 was important, because it was matching frequencies of highest to lowest from both Voynich glyphs and Latin letters to show you the language to use. N happens to be the 8th highest Latin letter pointing to Latin. So let's try daiin. It would be pronounced Octoessr when spoken in tongues. So why did I not use N as in Nesser? Not only does Octoessr sound like professor and it's in Latin, it has 3 syllables. 8 happens to be about the same frequency area as N in Latin. I believe it pointing as a straight across substitution all along, and even though the words don't make sense, it's because it's a glossolalia. There is also one small word in Latin, say in folio 2v, and it means, apart from. It could be apart from the language. I appreciate your attention on this matter. Daiin, Octoessr. 1. Chp. Oes becomes uub. 2. dy. Before you write this off, nt. Listen to Latin nt. 1. Kakikia quat 2 or e, quat 2 or eluute. 1. Oes. 1. Ds. 1. Keys. 1. Doism. 1. Ikideder. 1. Okeys. 1. Oraki. 1. Coedi. 1. E. 1. Odiadidl. 1. Od. 1. Carrier. 1. Coe. 2. dy. 1. Daiin. 1. Oian. 1. Kudo. 1. Oatadi. Here is the cipher from Eva Voynich to Latin. I found 2 occurrences of dio, means God in Latin, in folio 79v with the cross. The core in a straight substitution would be dio, however the pronunciation is different. I use 4 for Q, so Corchety would be quat 2 or EOA October Novum. If you are interested in my theory, I have a website where you can input EVA and output glossolalia. Here is a link for EVA. I'm not sure of the statistics if the entropy would rank higher toward a language or not compared to Voynich than the substituted glossolalia. Here is my website. https://voynichglossolalia.greatsite.net. You can put in multiple words. Try daiin first. Here is the first paragraph of folio 1 or the way they spoke 600 years ago for MS 408. The word mic below would sound like meech in Latin. Facis eichel ar atein shol shori c3s eikos sholdi. Sari sikar or y kair taten shar ar sithar dan. Sier sheki or ikain shad sithori sithes darayan sy. Doyan ote otios raladi cthar dayan otayan or okan. Der y cheer sithayan sifar sifayan yidarai shai. Vinovem novemlek eo epicer mike myanovem pub novemlib mikoktanovm. Byanovem leo io novum luo epicer meo eou peo octoessr. Gnov meso molnovem io novumlisser miocto pyanovem pub Octoessr novum. Octoessr ipunovem ipuib oisipnovum p, eo Octoessr ipicer io iler octiso. Octiso novum pesser geo vesser novum octoioism novum. Just another post, I made an observation of the star folio F68R1, the star Oyner in tongues sounds like Israel. Some of the medieval people thought of stars were like angels. Anyway, here is the decoded star in tongues. Theologians and common people linked stars to angels in medieval times. Oyner. Oisisnraero. Oyner Israel. One other idea about speaking in tongues, there's the whole repeat words issue, and yes, that's in the Voynich. The way I decoded it has that repeat vibe too. So look at this for instance. If you decode some of Voynich with my website to tongues, you will hear the repeat vibe when you read it. dy. Docto wynovum, docto wynovum, docto wynovum. Octonovem. Quote, because they are sadly uneducated and uncatechized on the matter, and have mistaken the occultic practice of incantation/ululation with the gift of tongues in the New Testament. By repeating the same 5 to 13 syllables multiple times, especially, but not necessarily, with gradually increasing speed, volume, and intensity and working to a climax, one induces an altered state of consciousness and often auto-hysteria. It is in fact a practice condemned in Scripture, in both the Old Testament and the New. Apostolic tongues, by contrast, sounds like a language, with a discernible grammar, vocabulary, morphology, and syntax, and in fact often is an actual other human language that the speaker has no knowledge of. I was accompanying a friend on a mission trip in Eastern Europe 25 years ago, and at a small town in southeast Poland the host asked me to preach at a village gathering with the host translating. 3 lines into the sermon, though I speak not a word of Polish, I broke into perfect native Polish, and not the kind you'd learn in school, but this town's obscure dialect and accent, at least that's what they all told me. All I know is I was trying to speak in English, but all the words kept coming out funny. Say is just above the decoded LAIO, for core. The abbreviation for Latin is L and AIO means to tell and relate. Yet, say, states this is, apart from, Latin, yet AIO to tell and relate the meaning may be apart. This is very interesting for a glossolalia. There are remote Latin words that are rare, but for the most part it reads like tongues. Say. Core. LO. https://voynichglossolalia.greatsite.net https://www.voynich.com/mbpages. Okay, so I believe I know what's going with say, it means apart from. It's in F2V in MS408. There is 5 instances of the word AIO in folio 2V that's supposed to be for tongues, but the word is AIO means to tell or relate. So we are dealing with a glossolalia and we are telling and relating, but the meaning is apart from. Here is the decoded file of F2V. Kuyin. KLOIOIISISNR. LASSR. Chio. CHUOI. AUI. 4. PG CHOITRO. Geo. Otean. OITPAEISISNR. Ipasser. O. OI. I. daiin. DCTOAEISNR. Octoessr. Chor. CHOITRO. AIO. Dare. DCTOAEISRO. Octiso. SHTY. SHM, TP, Ynovum. Mpnovum. Cho. KL, CHAOI. LAI. KCHY. KL, CHYnovum. Lanovem. Show. SHM, OI. MI. Shoal. SHM, OIS LC. Mike. Cacho. Quatuor, OI, TP, CHA, OI. Quatuoropi. Louise. LC, OI, EU, SB. Suab. Cody. Quatuor, OI, TP, Ynovum. Quatuoripnovum. Chor. CHOITRO. AIO. daiin. DCTOAEISISNR. OCTOESSR. Achi. OITP CHYnovum. Ipanovem. Chor. CHOITRO. AIO. Elshai. LC SHM Ynovum. Kmnovum. Cole. CHOITLC. AIC. Chodi. CHOITCTO Ynovum. Ioctanovum. Chodain. CHAOITCTO AEISNR. Ioctoessr. CHC thy. CHCTHP Ynovum. Apnovum. daiin. DCTOAEISISNR. OCTOESSR. Show. SHM OI. MI. Cholo. CHOITLC OI. AICI. Chair. CHEU OITRO. AUO. Codain. CHAOITCTOAEISISNR. AOCTOESSR. Core. KL CHOITRO. LO. Shy. XHM Ynovum. Novum. daiin. DCTOAEISISNR. OCTOESSR. CHC COE. CHCKHL OI Ynovum. Alanovum. S. SB. B. She. XHM EU Ynovum. Munovem. Door. DCTO OITRO. Octoessr. Col. Cipher. AIC. daiin. Octoaisisnr. Octoessr. Door. Octoessr. Octoessr. Col. Cipher. AIC. Chor. Cipher. AIO. Col. Cipher. AIC. Keol. KLTUOILC. Luik. Chai. Cipher. Anovum. CHTY. CHTP, Wynovum. Apnovum. daiin. Octoaisisnr. Octoessr. Octoessr. OITP CHOISRO. IPO. Chan. CHAENR. AER. daiin. Octoaisisnr. Octoessr. Chachi. CHOITP CHATU Wynovum. Iponovum. Koti. Quatuor OITP EU Wynovum. Quatuoripionovum. Chokios. CHOIT KLTU OIT SB. Aluib. Cheese. CHEU SB. AUUB. CHR. CHRO. AO. Chian. CHEU AEISISNR. AUSSR. Chokoishi. CHOIT KL OIIS SHMEU. Elismu. Chor. CHOISRO. AIO. Cheol. CHEU OITLC. AUIC. Col. CHOITLC. AIC. Daladi. DCTO OITLC OIT DCTO Wynovum. Octoishioctanovem. Tests indicate that glossalalia's rank are lower on entropy tests for language. So I decided, since I can gain access to my glossolalia of words through my site from EVA, to run an entropy test for language. The test was done on half of folio 58R and it rated 3.69596. While English ranks a 4.5. Lower entropy means the next word is easier to predict. This seems about right. In a glossolalia there is much repetition going on. I have made a breakthrough, and when you are done reading this, emotions will run high. I feel this post may change your perception, either to totally scoff at this or you will have intrigue. The evidence is not a winding road. One evidentiary state of facts opens up a new look at this book. Yes, words, coding, imagery and an era all play a part. My choice of Latin was for 3 reasons. The main reason was the amount of core glyphs from Voynich was key. The core Voynich glyphs comprise about 20 that are used. Latin uses 24 on average, yet the least often are rare, so I'm using a straight across 20 for glyphs to letters. Latin would be the source language of the person recording tongues, but of course no sensible words, only rarely. They would repeat, and when recording the words to dictionary to later write into a manuscript, the structure of a constructed language that's loose for rules could be understood for low entropy. The glyph script was to show off an angelic feel for the one who knew the language that underlined the script of glyphs. The other reason I'm using a Latin frequency list is this text is what I believe the author of the dictionary base, tongue, words came from. The exception is with 4, 8, and 9. He may have been autistic and used them as shorthand in the dictionary. He then transferred the numbers over into the made-up script which he memorized to read in front of priests. Maybe, speculation as always in this study. I believe the author could read the Voynich. Anyone could memorize a Latin-based system applied to a foreign-based glyph system and utter the words even if they did not make sense. My guess, he approached the priests at churches, maybe saying he wrote down, speaking in tongues, and this was the angelic text. Third reason is I found 2 Latin words and one in the Voynich margin and folio. On F2V I found se means apart from in Latin. I already stated that LIO was L apart from AIO, and it was L was abbreviated for Latin. That AIO meant to tell and relate, yet no meaning. As se goes, meaning apart from. And I found MV on F66 R means 1005 in Latin in the margin where there's a little crumb of food next to it. My translation found MVIO in tongues for Eva Shkfor is October 1006, and this is logic. Quote, 3. The month abbreviation, October 1006. Old ledger entries, an O after a year would indicate the month of October, Octoberus. MVI equals 1006. O equals October. Interpretation, October, 1006. I looked this up. In around October of 1006. Quote. The supernova of 1006, throughout the year, including the autumn, the brightest supernova ever recorded, SN 1006, was visible in the skies, having appeared in May in the constellation Lupus. It was so bright that it was described by observers across Europe, China, Japan, and Egypt, and it remained visible for months. Quote, the aspect of this rock art panel that caught my attention was the figure at upper left, which resembles other Hohokam glyphs thought to represent scorpions. It is an oriented figure facing right with what appear to be chelae, hinged pincer-like claws, legs, and a tail. These are creatures with which the desert-dwelling Hohokam would have been very familiar. The juxtaposition of figures that could plausibly be interpreted as a scorpion and bright sky object, in their relative positions, immediately reminded me of the positions of the classical constellation Scorpius and the bright supernova recorded by European and Chinese astronomers that first appeared in the night sky in the early hours of May 1, 1006 CE. The object would have been visible from the location of the petroglyph, rising some 20 degrees above the southern horizon just before midnight. With a peak visual brightness of magnitude 7.5, it outshone every other object in the night sky. For the inhabitants of the area, it would have been an unforgettable sight. This plant of folio 25V could be a green supernova with a dragon exhaling the foliage. This leads up to the word I'm showing you, which could move the whole date of the MS408. If you carefully look at F25V, it does look like an exploding star and a dragon would be breathing fire. Shkfor MVIO represents the year 1006 and October month in Latin of the supernova. I don't doubt that's when the Voynich was created. Yet there have been mistakes in carbon dating. There is a very big star theme in the Voynich besides the herbal and the supernova. The one they spoke of for 1006 could have stoked, speaking in tongues. I don't think I'm pushing the speculation too far, the evidence is in the text. There is only one occurrence of MVIO, so excluding the tongues and pushing a year from logic and imagery as well. There is some religious themes in the Voynich, a cross and a dove. The manuscript does push the star theme quite a bit. I think the closest images to a star being a supernova in MS408 are F67R1, F67V1 and F68V1. There could be meaning here in this one instance. The MV in the margin indicates a number 1005. It could be a date maybe. Wikipedia. Key details regarding the appearance of SN 1006. Color changes. Arab scholar accounts indicate the star's color shifted as it faded, starting as a faint greenish yellow before becoming whiter. /. I ended the post, but I have further evidence from the MS-408. The supernova was in the Lupus Scorpius area 1006. Folio 67v2 shows a star rising out of a pipe and a constellation in the shape of a J known as Scorpius. The middle is green, could be supernova. Just view the image I brought in. What are your views on this? Quote, yes, the Lupus constellation features a distinct triangle-shaped asterism within its boundary, which is often used to mark the head of the wolf. The triangle shape, the head of Lupus, is defined by a triangle of stars, specifically Eta Lupi, Theta Lupi, and Chi Lupi. Location: Lupus is a southern hemisphere constellation, bordered by Scorpius, the Scorpion, and Centaurus. Font equals Arial. What is very symbolic about F25V is the green dragon expelling or exhaling the greenest plant of the Voynich, like an exploding star, in which MVIO happens to be in the text. F70R2 also looks like it could be a supernova. Quote, some historical accounts suggest the 1006 supernova appeared with a greenish-yellow or pale blue tint as it changed colors during its months-long visibility. While Chinese observers often described it as yellow and extremely brilliant, other records indicate it was a dazzling, shifting color/font. Attached files. Images. This is extremely bold to you, the reader. I cannot deny the code, the rare words in Latin in the margin, the identical imagery for the theme of a supernova in 1006 and the history. This Conlang, speaking in tongues one-to-one substitution has given the Voynich somewhat a meaning and time that I think cannot be refuted. Carina is the hull of the ship. I found a rare Latin word in folio 25v Schkier with my code Schkier ALUEO meaning ship's hull. Of a ship, a hold, hull. A small ship, boat Argo Navis. Quote, yes, the constellation Carina contains a prominent, roughly square-shaped asterism. This word came out of the same folio 25v where MVIO came from. 4. Quote, yes, the Carina constellation represents the keel, or hull, of the ship Argo Navis. Now looking at the constellation positions and the folio 67v2, what are the odds of Latin code words in F25v for ship's hull Carina and MVIO supernova pointing to F67v2? I believe I have a partial solution for the Voynich manuscript. In some medieval manuscripts, constellations are represented scientifically using dots connected by lines, rather than the classical animal and human figures. A good example is a zodiac wheel in MSBSB CLM 28229, Speyer on the Rhine, Germany, 14th century. The map below with the sun and moon rising and setting gives the meaning you could see the supernova day and night. Quote, yes, you can see the constellation Scorpius in October, but only for a very short time just after sunset, low on the southwestern horizon. It is a summer constellation that departs the sky by mid-September in the northern hemisphere, but the bright, red heart star Antares can still be spotted in early October. Let's assume I'm right and the author was around during the supernova of 1006. He worked on it from 1005 to daiin Octoessr October of 1006. This event would contribute to speaking in tongues, because of the night sky brightness of the supernova. The people may have thought the cosmic signs were a prelude to God's wrath. One other tidbit of info: Eva, Chan, is air means air and sky listed 11 times by itself. The MS-408. The folio just before where I found ALUEO and MVIO has one hit of air. I have a site where you can put in Latin words and it outputs Eva to check. https://latineva.greatsite.net. What could be additional evidence, and it would be the beginning of the stirrup usage for the handheld crossbow. You have to admit that crossbow looks antiquated. Now I don't want to sound disgusting, but the guy has a grin and his target is a little suggestive. I digress. The crossbow in F73V is extremely primitive and suggests 11th century. https://latineva.greatsite.net. There is a stirrup design with the round hooks on the spanning in F73V. Quote, the inclusion of a stirrup on the front of a crossbow to aid in spanning, drawing, the bow did not become a standard, ubiquitous feature until later in the Middle Ages, but its early, rare appearance in the 11th century is supported by emerging evidence. Early archaeological evidence. While common, widespread use of the stirrup occurs around the turn of the 12th and 13th centuries, the earliest known European crossbow remains, which include stirrups, have been dated to the 11th century, notably from findings at Lake Paladro. Wikipedia. The rare 11th century usage. While crossbows were present, e.g., at the Battle of Hastings in 1066, the stirrup was not universal. Early crossbowmen frequently held the bow down using their feet directly on the prod itself, a less efficient method that could damage the bow. www.acava.com. Function of early stirrups. The 11th century stirrup allowed the user to put their foot through a metal ring on the front, enabling them to use their strong back and leg muscles to draw the string, often while using a belt hook. Britannica. Transition period. The 11th century marked a transition in European weaponry. The crossbow was reintroduced/gained popularity after centuries of absence, 10th century, but it was still developing the specialized metal stirrups and complex drawing devices that became standard in the 13th and 14th centuries. Wikipedia. There is no doubt in my mind now, because I have the evidence. It is a glossolalia like I propose, an angelic script with underlying Latin source code. There are few rare Latin words and some Latin margin words which enabled the breakthrough. I believe the supernova set off something with people witnessing in tongues, and this was major during the supernova of 1006. Many people here including Bax believe, including myself, that folio 68R3 retains Pleiades. That folio is a planisphere of some constellations during April 30, 1006 when the supernova went off. The constellation are at 9:30 position W Taurus and Pleiades. At the southwest 7 position are Puppis, Argo Novis, Scorpius, Lupus, but Crux you have to be further south than Venice to observe at that time of year. At the 1 position NE you have Ursa Minor and Draco. At east position for 3:30 you have Boötes, Virgo and Hydra. Never mind the number I put in the SW, they could be wrong. Those constellations were in SW just at different times. Puppis is the only one at the same time as NW, NE and SE. The author/artist was trying his best to convey the constellations of SN 1006. I believe in this post the evidence points to a supernova of 1006 for MS 408 and that it is a constructed language about speaking in tongues with some rare Latin words. I don't believe the carbon data to be accurate, unless the author researched the subject really well. That could be possible if he had access to a great library. Why I doubt the carbon dating? The margins of Latin MV and say with my code found MVIO and the whole glossolalia idea, this would be of that time. This is circa 1005-1006. You can download Stellarium here to view for yourself. https://stellarium.org. SN 1006 appeared in a remote part of the sky. It is known that 1006 was off the galactic plane and remote. I used my cipher and found the Latin word auio means out of the way, remote, trackless, untrodden. The word auio was found in F68R3 on the opposite end of the planisphere where the supernova 1006 was found. Quote, yes, SN 1006 was located in a relatively remote or isolated part of the sky, far from the dense, dust-filled plane of the Milky Way galaxy. Specifically, it occurred in the constellation Lupus, roughly 14 degrees off the galactic plane, which allowed its light to reach Earth, unobstructed, resulting in the brightest observed supernova in human history, brighter than Venus. Facebook. It's on the ridge. Chair. This site converts Eva to tongues and sometimes a Latin word. https://voynichglossolalia.greatsite.net. This site converts Latin words to Eva. https://latineva.greatsite.net. Thanks for the reply. My cipher is a custom Eva to Latin from highest to lowest frequency settings matching glyph to letter. Of course Eva represents a glyph. I'm counting the CH as one letter in my cipher and it has been telling. I'm not speaking in tongues. Yes, if you put in Eva, D, the Latin output will be octo, its tongues. Some rare words come through as Latin and they have been key to information about findings. Following up on F68R3, I decided to check on the location of Rome with stellarium. There may be confusion, but west is to the right and east is to the left. The southwest constellations don't line up all at the same time, just one Puppis 4, Argo Novus. When I move the time and stay on the 30th, Scorpius and Lupus come into the southwest together. Crux is to far south. Since we are comparing to F68R3, at the center is what looks like a moon, not a sun, which indicated night. And the diagrams are at night. F68R2 shows a moon to the north and the face looks the same as the moon in F68R3. About quatuor, octo, and novum? This is 4, 8, and 9 respectively. They appear in MS408. Why it's in tongues and it's special. April is the 4th month and it's when the supernova of 1006 occurred. It faded after 3 months in August/September. August is the 8th/9th months and it was gone only pulses. Daiin is name Octoessr, so it could double for Octoberus, the date on MVIO in the earlier post here. And the SN 1006 that faded was gone in the southwest. Lupus was just on a hairline in the SW from Venice, Italy. And it would have faded almost entirely in Octoberus. Then the nova reappeared in Novemberus, so there goes the sounding like novum. So I interpreted tongues. Here is an example of tongues and it's short, my pronunciation may be terrible. It's a prayer in speech where any syllable that leaves your vocal cords is a sign of devotion. That's speaking in tongues. This could be the author's own words that he recorded with Latin. After he wrote down the words in Latin, he assigned the glyphs to it as a dictionary. Then he memorized the glyphs as Latin sounds and wrote out the MS408. Maybe he did not have any help by the looks of the pictures. Courier A, B is him. Or he had help. That's a tough answer, although the consensus says multiple scribes. I have had other theories and I discounted them, yet there is too much that has been connected here. I believe the small amount of effort to show corrections for this text is a facade. To make you think the language behind it is 100%. The author had much going on with woman. I believe he was male. I'm a man and I can see the misogyny in the MS408. The crossbow man pointing his bolt at her vagina, naked ladies, tying up woman, and woman being eaten by fish, although that could be a man. Maybe in a way this tongue business was private but a confession, and the supernova prompted this outpouring. Speculation. He had his fetishes and was brilliant if you ask me. He had an omen on his back, AUI, omen. The reason it is hidden is the man wanted to get it out of his system, his thoughts in tongues with God. The supernova spurred on his soul. He did leave little trails of morsels like MV, say MVIO, and some other Latin words I have found in the text with this unique glossolalia substitution cipher 1-to-1. God is actually in the MS408 as DIO for door, which is in tongues as Octoyo, listed 73 times as door for Eva. Octo is D for Eva. This fits for low entropy and why no one has decoded it or put a language to it. For the first time in 17 years with these discoveries, the doubting has diminished to 0.01%. I feel I have done it. What I doubt is a guy gathered this from a library. I was going to post this in the Chinese theory, but hey, it's my theory, right? So here it is. This tongue cipher has some hits with meaning. It found ALE with the yang plant for folio 38 R Oli. The plant depicts the yang symbol missing the ing. Yang with medicine. I believe this the fist hit. Does anyone want me to really record some more of me speaking in tongues from MS408? https://voynichglossolalia.greatsite.net. ALE and YNG mean nurturing, healing, to feed, nourish, support, sustain, maintain. Figuratively, to nourish, cherish, promote, increase, strengthen. Quote, context, it is often used to describe nourishing the body, mind, spirit, or community. Dictionary.com. Note, in the context of traditional Chinese medicine, yang sheng, as defined on Octoessr acupuncture, also focuses on nourishing life, which involves nurturing physical and mental well-being. Octoessr acupuncture. Looking at what should be November in astrology of MS408 with the lizard according to Elias Schwertfeger. I did a double take and the author is hiding novum right in front of us with an over horizontal macron that's not a B and A R and E is missing. This looks strange. I use novum for my Eva, why, it's in the speech in tongues from the cipher. Look at what should be November, it's a short novum. Why, for novum, check it out in my cipher. Why? https://voynichglossolalia.greatsite.net. Quote, scribal abbreviation, overline in medieval manuscripts and older handwriting, such as German current schrift, a horizontal bar over a consonant like N or M, e.g., was used to indicate that the letter was doubled, or to indicate a missing N or M. While we are on the topic novum for number, I believe you're in my imagination, that the adjective for nova, which is novum, sounds just like novum. This occurs for novum 16602 in MS408 and it is the second most common glyph in the Voynich Manuscript. This speaking in tongues, was like a religious experience for the author. Ali ibn Ridwan was at Cairo when he recorded the fading of supernova 1006. It slipped out of view in September and that's when I believe the author the MS408 recorded the dark period in Choir 13 of the Voynich. Novum for the 9th month. If you notice in Choir 13, 1 out of 20 folios there is only one star and it's dark to be viewed in F82R. The strong parallels are with the sleeping woman who normally gleefully holds stars in their hands. There is a string on the star which trails off to a blue orb and a woman with blue hair. This tells me the supernova went dark. Here is the process 2 lines below the picture of the sleeping supernova in tongues from my cipher. What you will see in there is RIP and that was used in Latin as, requiescat in pace, singular, or requiescant in pace, plural, meaning, may he, she/they rest in peace. If you wish to process tongues with my cipher, go here. I'm only using the output words now and if you need to align as in text paragraphs for the list of words, go here. Lica octanovum quadrilu octanovem quatruorigic quatruoripu octo agaug octanovum quatuoripec o octanovum eliq ipu octanovum. Quatuori octo octo equatuori octio auli sisic ilec eliso octanovum. Quote, at the time SN 1006 was first seen, it was reported by Ali ibn Ridwan to be in opposition to the sun, and so months later, sometime in September, it was no longer able to be seen due to its proximity to the sun. It reappeared in the dawn sky in November or December of 1006. The SN was visible in the night sky for a period of at least 3 years. Something else that is sign language from F82 are with the woman arms for letters. I used to try this some time ago but from left to right and the woman are signaling something and now I understand it's from right to left. The last woman on the right is pointing to glyph O which I use Latin I in my cipher. The word is novae and it's in the same word list as nova for definitions, however it means knowledge. This was very interesting to me, because I'm noticing my cipher being acknowledged by MS408 itself. Quatuoripnivum, this is measurable and not a random indication within the Voynich manuscript. It's deliberate. Quatuoripnivum, which is Cody again Cody. The 29 instances out of 89 for Cody, which, rest in peace supernova, is 145% listed and has the greatest density than any other section. Choir 13, I feel, was created in September when the supernova faded away. The herbal section has a 30% density of Cody. I made a tremendous find for speaking in tongues, she. That's mu in Latin, means muttering. That's precisely what happens between words or during a glossolalia, speaking in tongues. She occurs 25 times in the Voynich manuscript. She is munovem muttering nova/9. The occurrence is 283 times in the Voynich. Here is a picture of F70R2 with she highlighted in yellow. Why this folio image? To me it suggests a supernova. I think it's time for me to start paying attention more to the tongue of MS408. Arizona AMS Laboratory. A solid case for 1005-6 AD. I'm going to throw some dirt, or should I say a morsel or crumb, next to MV. Quote, the NSF Arizona AMS Laboratory at the University of Arizona has conducted radiocarbon dating on both the Shroud of Turin and the Voynich manuscript, playing a crucial role in scientific investigations of both controversial artifacts. The Arizona AMS Laboratory radiocarbon dated the Shroud of Turin, which is 200 years off in a sample, and the Voynich, which is 60 years off in a sample. However, I'm claiming it to be 400 years off, so who is wrong and right? Maybe F68 is 200 years off according to Renée Zandbergen. This is not an exact science, folks. Quote, in 2010, statisticians Marco Riani and Anthony C. Atkinson wrote in a scientific paper that the statistical analysis of the raw dates obtained from the 3 laboratories for the radiocarbon test suggests the presence of contamination in some of the samples. They conclude that the effect is not large over the sampled region. Our estimate of the change is about 2 centuries. 49. In December 2010, Timothy Jull, a member of the original 1988 radiocarbon dating team and editor of the peer-reviewed journal Radiocarbon, co-authored an article in that journal with Rachel A. Freer-Waters. They examined a portion of the radiocarbon sample that was left over from the section used by the University of Arizona in 1988 for the carbon dating exercise, and were assisted by the director of the Gloria F. Ross Center for Tapestry Studies. They viewed the fragment using a low magnification, 30 times, stereo microscope, as well as under high magnification, 320 times, viewed through both transmitted light and polarized light, and then with epifluorescence microscopy. They found only low levels of contamination by a few cotton fibers, and no evidence that the samples actually used for measurements in the C14 dating processes were dyed, treated, or otherwise manipulated. They concluded that the radiocarbon dating had been performed on a sample of the original shroud material. Quote, the assumptions used to combine the results were clearly explained by Renée Zandbergen. A combined dating of the Voynich MS. The dating of each folio doesn't allow a very precise dating of the MS. The uncertainty in age for each folio is some 50-60 years, and in the case of folios 68 even spans 2 centuries due to the above-mentioned inversions of the calibration curve. The book production process is likely to have taken considerably less time than these 50-60 years. Under the assumptions that the MS was indeed created over a time span not exceeding, e.g., 10 years. It was not using parchment that was prepared many years ago. Each sheet provides a measurement or observation of the MS creation. Since they are likely to be from different animal hides, these are indeed independent observations. Combining these observations leads to a combined uncalibrated age of 1435 plus or minus 26 years, 1 sigma. I thought I would go over MV again and see what I could make out from the two other words in Latin. NMV, translation, see there, 1005, exists. The picture of the person holding their umbilicus F66 which means navel or center is what I want you to focus on, this word the center. MV plays the central role of the whole manuscript and it is the key in which everything falls into place. The cipher which relied on MV found MVIO for 1006 which gave me the breakthrough. What is truly ironic, and the author of MS408 had no idea about EVA Y, but it is T in Latin which is novum in my cipher. That is a wonder. This will come as a surprise. I have found the author's full name and I believe he was a Pisces. Mech was found there. His name is Leo Mech in folio 113R, finding the author name in this Voynich EVA, and here is the EVA Carshal Mech is abbreviated I surmise. Mech comes from Meko or Miko. You can check with my cipher. https://speakingintonguesvoynich.greatsite.net. From Miko, a common derivative of the first name Domenico, meaning, sacred to God. This is symbolic and a metaphor, and I don't think he is implying a saber-toothed tiger. It's Leo Mech saying he is speaking in tongues, and it's depicting a cat symbolic of Leo with its tongue sticking out in August. So circa 1005-6 and Leo Mech of Italy, author of MS408. Ali ibn Ridwan from Cairo recorded the supernova visible on April 30, 1006 in the Northern Hemisphere. If you count the barrels with the ladies holding stars in MS408 for the 2 April astrology charts F71R and F70V1, you find them totaling to 30. The woman in the barrels with the stars in their hands symbolizes the supernova coming out. Quote, SN 1006 was a supernova that is likely the brightest observed stellar event in recorded history, reaching an estimated -7.5 visual magnitude, and exceeding roughly 16 times the brightness of Venus. Appearing between April 30 and May 1, 1006, ambiguous, in the constellation of Lupus, this guest star was described by observers across China, Japan, modern-day Iraq, Egypt, and Europe, 2-5, and was possibly recorded in North American petroglyphs, 6. Some reports state it was clearly visible in the daytime. Modern astronomers now consider its distance from Earth to be about 7,200 light-years or 2,200 parsecs. 3. Historic reports. Egyptian astrologer and astronomer Ali ibn Ridwan, writing in a commentary on Ptolemy's Tetrabiblos, stated that the spectacle was a large circular body, 21/2 to 3 times as large as Venus. The sky was shining because of its light. The intensity of its light was a little more than a quarter that of moonlight, or perhaps, than the light of the moon when 1/4 illuminated. 2. Like all other observers, Ali ibn Ridwan noted that the new star was low on the southern horizon. Some astrologers interpreted the event as a portent of plague and famine. Wikipedia. This should hit home for everyone here enjoying this theory. Lupus is a misnomer for the constellation that is a leopard, and it still had a triangle at its head. Hence the tongue's leopard in August. Quote, the key Arabic astronomical work of this era was the Book of Fixed Stars by Abu al-Husayn Abd al-Rahman al-Sufi, 903–986 AD, completed around 964 CE, which contained a listing of the Arabs' own star names. Muslim heritage. So the Arabic naming tradition that included al-Fad was active well before the 11th century. Quote, Lupus, the wolf, an idea for the figure said to be from the astrologer's erroneous translation of al-Fad, the Arabian title for this constellation, their leopard, or panther. They made an error and renamed leopard to Lupus. The Leopard constellation was around when author of MS-408 Leo Miko in 1006 displayed the leopard with the tongue sticking out to signal the supernova to the south. To say this means speaking in tongues. I was not going to post this as part of my theory for fear of it being a bit too complicated. Yet the author Leo Miko was a complicated man. He knew his cipher and hidden language of glossolalia would be very difficult to find, so he did leave very obscure clues, in a way he wanted it cracked. This one for the reader takes some thought. Taurus and Pleiades was in the 9:30 position on April 30, 1006, the supernova. The plant on folio 1v has what looks like it's inverted from its side, the Taurus sign symbol for astrology of the time at the 9:30 position. Folio 68R3 has Pleiades and Taurus at 9:30. Was Leo Miko implying or telling us that's Taurus with an off clue? Going back to April 30, 1006 AD. To make a powerful connection inside the VMS with Folio 67R2. The moons in F68R1 and F68R2 are waning below crescents at Venice, Italy. The moon was the same in MS-408 and for April 30, 1006 AD. And again notice the large star in the middle with the greenish hue. SN 1006 had that property for F67R2. Quote. 1006-0430. 17 hours 55 minutes and 48 seconds. Moon. Magnitude. 11.61. Distance. 373,295.08 kilometers. Radius. 1,737.4 kilometers. RA/Dec. 21 hours 44 minutes and 15.2 seconds. 09 degree 31 foot 09.1 inch. AZ/Alt. 038 degree 18 foot 18.1 inch 48 degrees 16 minutes 52.2 seconds. Phase. 37%. Visibility. Rise, 1736 set, 349. https://stellariumweb.org/p/observations. What does 37% illumination mean? Waxing crescent phase, a 37% illuminated moon is considered a waning crescent. Waxing means the illuminated portion is decreasing, and crescent means it is less than half lit, less than 50%. Facebook. Regarding the hue of the greenish color, I believe that mostly occurred toward the setting of the supernova for the year 1006, due to atmospheric conditions of the southwest or west. The green stars of Folio 67V1 is the supernova of 1006. Quote. It is entirely possible that a bright supernova like SN 1006 could have shown a greenish hue while setting in the southwest, particularly due to atmospheric refraction, scattering, and the phenomenon known as the green flash. Facebook. At a peak visual magnitude of around -7.5, SN 1006 was significantly brighter than Venus and visible during the daytime. When such a bright, point-like light source approaches the horizon, atmospheric conditions can distort its appearance dramatically. Wikipedia. Green flash phenomenon. Just before a very bright setting object disappears below the horizon, atmospheric refraction bends the light, separating it into colors like a prism. Because blue and green light bend more than red, green is often the last visible color before an object sets, producing a green flash. Facebook. Atmospheric scattering. As light travels through more of the atmosphere near the horizon, blue and violet light are scattered, leaving red, yellow, and green. Depending on the density of the atmosphere and particles, this can sometimes lead to a green hue rather than a deep red. Twinkling and color changes. The extreme brightness of SN 1006, combined with the thick layer of air near the horizon, would cause intense atmospheric scintillation, twinkling, which often produces alternating flashes of color. Quora. While some records describe SN 1006 as having a yellowish hue, likely due to the low altitude, the atmospheric conditions in the southwest during its setting would have been ideal for creating shifting, greenish, or multicolored appearances. Wikipedia. Quote. Ibn Sina, also known as Avicenna, is the source identified by researchers as having recorded the greenish-yellow color of the SN 1006 supernova in his text Kitab al-Shifa, Book of Healing, noting its evolution from a faint green-yellow to white. This observation adds color detail not found in other records. National Geographic. Key source, Ibn Sina, Avicenna, is credited with describing the color evolution of the brightest recorded supernova, SN 1006. The source material, Kitab al-Shifa, Book of Healing, contains the description. Color description. He noted it was initially a faint greenish-yellow, sparkled intensely, and then turned white. Location. While not in Cairo, the report is from his observations during 1006 while in Uzbekistan, as documented by recent studies. Context. The sighting was corroborated with other findings, including those from Cairo's Ibn Ridwan, who documented the same event in 1006. Muslim heritage. It is important to distinguish that while Ibn Ridwan is the primary observer living in Cairo, it was Ibn Sina's text that described the specific greenish-yellow color. Aramco World. This just verified my substitution cipher, it's a lock. A full moon is the halfway point between the waning and waxing crescent moons. The measurement for that halfway point is pi, 3.14 https://speakingintongues voynich.greatsite.net. Within the inner circle of F67R1 sits a picture of the moon with opposing, waning and waxing crescent moons. The half point of that is a full moon. Here is the Leo Miko Vordutoi Eva Utoi, and my 1-to-1 substitution cipher sees it as this Novempanavum. At this position for the Vordutoi the supernova MVI has already set. Lupus/Leopard constellation set where SN 1006 is. The imagery is stunning example of a supernova that has set with dark radii which has darkened. Quote. The number pi 3.14 represents the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter and also corresponds to the distance halfway around a circle's edge, an angle of 180. When measured in radians. Thanks for your attention. The evidence overweighs the carbon dating. However, like some who believe they cracked the Voynich, I leave that decision to the readers. If you would like to convert Eva Voynich to tongues or some Latin, go here. https://speakingintonguesvoynich.greatsite.net. Eva Voynich from the Voynich Manuscript transliteration. https://www.voynich.com/pages. Great site to see the manuscript and paste your Eva Voynich to test. https://www.voynichessay.com. Site to turn your list of words in tongues to a paragraph. https://textconverter.com/split text into paragraphs.